Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of One Take because life has no rehearsal. Today, I'm usually thrilled to have all of our guests. I like all of them. Today, I am more than thrilled. I am truly honored to bring a real icon on the media industry. Ed Papazian has been in the media industry forever. I'm not going to go into how long, but forever. When he began, ratings were essentially a new thing, and now we're talking about multimedia audience gathering. It's just incredible the amount of change that Ed has seen, has caused, and has been a part of. So, Ed, welcome. It's a thrill. I'm talking to a legend in the media
Thank you.
industry.
Thank you.
So, one of the things, by the time we get to be our age, this issue of how we began, or worse yet, decisive moments. We've had like 1,252,000 decisive moments from the moment we start to now. However, there's always one or two moments that really define us professionally and the kind of person that we grow in. So, why don't you tell us a bit about, your decisive moment? What created the modern Ed Papazian?
Well, in my case, I started in the middle, late 50s uh, at BBDO, and times were different then. In those days, everything was smaller. The country was not yet mature. We were just through the war. There was this new thing called TV. I was a teenager. My father passed on from cigarette smoking, and we bought a TV set. And I sat there and I said, gosh, here's Milton Berle, and so on and so on. And I said right then, as a teenager, in effect, late teen, I'm going to be in TV somehow. A few years later, I'm out of college. The Army wouldn't take me, football injury, luckily for me, actually. And I went to all the agencies and I said to BBDO, I want to get involved in TV. Hire me. And they said, no, no, no. But eventually they hired me in a department called the Radio TV Research Department, which is in the marketing department. Um, Suddenly, I found myself involved with ratings for shows like Groucho Marx had a hit show called You Bet Your Life. Uh, there were the American tobacco shows called The Jack Benny Show, Your Hit Parade. There was Lassie, many, many shows. And one of them was $64,000 Question, which began at the same time as I got there.
Yep.
And they said, Ed, you're a kid, but handle it. Check out the ratings. And they would buy ratings overnight, Trendex ratings, telephone surveys. And the next morning, I would get them and call them to the account exec who called them to the client. I was very heavily involved in almost hands-on TV stuff at a very young age. Uh, by and by, there was a quiz scandal. Not us, but Charles Van Doren, different show. Yet they check all the agencies out. And one day I got a call. This is a young Ed saying, the feds are coming to see you. Nobody asked what I would say. Just talk with them. So in came the feds in trench coats to a kid. And they said, we'd like to know more about your two quiz shows, the Revlon shows. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what I know, but we're clean. They said, okay. So I told them. I told them, for example, that the producers had asked us what we thought about various guests, the contestants. I told them about the overnight ratings. I told them about a lot of things like that. But I said, I think we're clean. And they left us alone. This is the age 26 or something like that. It was a very interesting time. But eventually I became media director in the 70s. And there I tried to get things done like launching independent service for non clients for a fee.
Right.
I tried to get involved in creating programs for TV syndication for a fee, things like that. I tried to get involved in selling our media planning, very good, by the way, to non-clients, non-creative clients. Couldn't get it done. Management didn't like the idea. They said, if you got all the excess time, start firing people. They couldn't see what was coming, the holding companies.
Yeah.
I got very frustrated and I left. And that was the main turning point. Around 1975, I left. I didn't leave nicely. I retired, meaning I wasn't getting along with them. And I retired. We were public. I had my stock, and I was a free man. And from then on, I began to do whatever I wanted to do: consulting, starting companies, making my own mistakes, having a few victories. And that's been the last 50 years.
Yeah.
The turning point was leaving, was accepting the fact that you could not go any further. The system has no growth potential. It's archaic, actually. They're not looking forward.
Yep.
Leave. So I left.
So it's one of the most interesting things because I of course didn't live in the US in those days, that they only had like the three networks and then an independent, right? But I saw a lot of the birth of it, right? Because for example, I saw TBS. If you remember, it wasn't even cable; it was a super channel, that kind of thing. And then when I moved to Mexico and Latin America and all of that, I was a very, very strong part of the creation and the growth of the cable industry. And now the cable industry doesn't even exist. So you've seen from, the bulk of the United States being divided into three networks and one independent, to seeing the bulk of the United States divided by, I don't know, 3 million different channels, And by the way, I want to make a point that in contrast to some people our age, you have absolutely no misgivings going into LinkedIn and arguing your point with anybody, which is great, by the way. It's absolutely great. But in all of those changes, because I have my own opinion, of course, what change did you never expect? What change took you by surprise?
The main thing, I think, if you think about it long term, is the country is changing. The context is changing. When I was a kid, and also the first 10 or 15 years in BBDO, uh, money wasn't that important. It was getting things done. It was the age of we still. There were things wrong, like segregation, all kinds of bad things going on. Unions just getting started, but corruption, cigarette advertising, a lot of bad things. But in effect, the country has changed, gotten mature, gotten big, gotten more segregated in terms of different groups wanting what they want. And we're now in the age of me, and we've been there for the last 50, 45 years, since Vietnam, roughly. Me, I'm more important than the country. My group is more important. Our interest counts first. Nothing else counts as much. And looking at media, as it got bigger and more mature, and more refinements and more ways of doing things, and cable later on, money is more important now. It makes you a bigger person. I think that's bad, by the way. No longer is it good. No longer is it helping. No longer is my programming doing a good job or conveying good ideas or whatever or entertaining. How much I make is what I see, and that is governing a lot of the stuff you see now. Think, for example, about the internet. It was organized by scientists and
Yep.
mathematicians, not by media people. Okay, they didn't care about whether ads work or consumers are happy or the information is worthwhile or corruption or fraud. They didn't care about that. Only technology. And people who got involved in the beginning, and now it's happening with streaming and so on, and AI, said, I can make a big killing financially by being a hero like a Bill Gates. And that was their motivation of many of them. Get involved, start a business, make it pretty big, but not perfect, not even profitable, and sell it for a lot of money on the come. And that makes me a better person. I, I think that's what we have now is in effect the result of all of that. We have, for example, a system which is the internet, where advertisers are told they're getting impressions, which are not impressions, not really. Nobody's seeing the ads.
Yeah.
They're being told about reach and frequency, which is not true. They're being taken for a ride. They're being charged a tremendous amount to get their ads out there, 30, 40%, not one or two like in the old days for TV. Something is wrong, and they don't see it. Why don't they see it, Marcelo? Why don't the advertisers see that? Because they've done the same thing. They've gotten big. All these brands I worked for Gillette, Scott Paper, Pillsbury, they were once independent companies. Now they're part of the holding companies of the advertisers. The exact same thing that's happening to media is happening to advertisers. They're big, disorganized, far bigger than they should be. Not even understanding the kinds of products they make. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And media is like that now. Bigger, bigger, bigger. Let's talk about YouTube. Yeah, I watched it.
Let me ask you a question before, because you probably, of all the people I know, you're one of the very few who could answer this. And it's a serious question. It is not a glib thing. Now, you were talking about the divisions in the country, the going from we to I. So I totally buy that. And you were talking about the creation of different media. Now, if you're really intent on, let's say, only making money, it is conceivable that you could come up and say, I'm going to create a channel that is going to be complete, or a media channel that's going to be completely different. And so I can draw my own audiences, right? And sell it. The only way I can do this is I need to be against everybody or controversial or something like that. So is it a vicious circle? Does the media fragmentation drive the country fragmentation, or is the country's fragmentation being reflected into media fragmentation? What do you think?
Well, it depends what you mean by fragmentation. For example, if you mean politically, like ultra right wing MAGA as opposed to ultra left wing, yeah, there are clearly certain media cater to that. Fox, MSNBC go after that as a way of getting viewers. They don't really care. They want viewers, they want money, and I understand that. If you mean ethnic, black, Hispanic, Italian, and so on, not so much. They have their own. They'll create a network or radio station, usually online, not always, and they'll reach the small number that they can target and not overspend and be viable. So in general, what's happening as far as the mass audience is it's not really a mass audience. People talk about 18 to 49, 25 to, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
We are all mindsets. We are stages of life. We are smart. We are dumb. Frankly, a lot of us are dumb. A lot of us are lazy. Some are very ambitious. Some are not. And that's a personality thing. And you can't find that in the media. The media is trying to get bigger and be mass. It's valued based on size, not on targeting.
Right.
And all the talking about targeting, the average marketer has no idea who will be his next customer. The average marketer is basically advertising defensively to keep what he's got. If you look at the studies, the IRI studies, the panel studies, they think that 85% of all advertising is to your current customers to get them to rebuy.
Mhm.
Only a small percentage is to get somebody else's customer to try you. That's not understood. Ad campaigns are not frivolous. They look at their consumers, they do surveys, they test them, the various
Yeah.
ways of trying to convey their message. They test the commercials. They know what they're doing. They're not operating in a seat of the pants fashion. The trouble is their methods are very primitive. They will not spend enough money to get the right kind of research. And the same goes for TV audience. Look
Yeah.
at the TV stations. They're complaining about Nielsen. They can't afford a national sample. They can't afford 100,000 homes. Their market's only that big. They cannot afford it. So we're in a measurement crisis. We have thousands and thousands of channels and stations, and we're trying to measure them all the same way.
Yeah.
Not can't be done.
I
The average marketer does not care about the audience size. That's a buying thing. They care about what their brand is saying, how their distribution is working, how good the product is, uh, the pricing decisions,
Yeah.
packaging, and media is a way of getting the message out. That's all.
Yeah.
They don't ignore radio, buy radio based on the reach. They assume it's there, and that's not understood. It,
Yeah, no, the average marketer for sure. They want all of that and they want the sales at the
yeah,
end. Actually, Roger Godbeer, who you probably met at some point in your career, he was unwittingly one of my mentors. And he would tell us in the Colgate meetings, the the strategy is like a piano score or like a music score. If you really need the piano to understand it, you're not really reading music.
yeah.
You have to play the piano. A real professional sees the thing and says, oh, yeah. So if you care about the sales and the segmentation and the targeting, you buy what you need to buy. But like, there shouldn't be, like, oh, I need to buy, like this radio or that TV station or whatever. That's what the agency should do, but only to meet the expectation of the brand manager or the client to, hey, I need to sell 100 million tubes of toothpaste. Come on. How do I sell
You
that?
know what's sad, Marcelo, is I've seen a lot of situations. I won't name the companies. If you look at the brand managers and you look at the way a typical marketer is organized, national marketer, there's the brand bunch and there's the sales bunch, distribution, and they are not together. They are coordinated somehow, but they're not really the same way of doing things. The brand bunch is talking about branding, about long term positioning of the brand, about creating new products, about packaging, about image, and pricing. The sales guys are talking about getting it done and getting it into the stores or on Amazon and getting immediate lifts. Different ballgame.
Yeah.
That roughly half the money goes that way to sales promotion. Half the money goes to branding, roughly. Uh, Bigger now, more sales promotion. That isn't understood. All these numbers we're talking about, like ad revenue, lump them all together. They're not operating by the same rules
Yeah.
or criterion. That isn't understood. The typical conversation on LinkedIn assumes that the most important thing is media. It's not.
No.
It's only one aspect. It's executional. How can I get the thing out the best way? Can I get it out in a way that gives me a good image, good reaction? Uh, will I enjoy seeing my ad in certain environments? Will consumers respond? You know, what? They don't understand that. So all this talk about measurement is about buying, not planning.
Right.
It's about how the buyer does picks a network, a show, a channel, and recommends it to his client. But that to the client is a detail. That's why the client, the brand guys, don't care about media. To them, it's an exercise. It's a routine function. The tragedy is they don't understand they could be doing a lot better if they paid attention. I wrote a thing on LinkedIn today about principal buying, where the agency says to the medium, the seller, we have all these clients together. Together, they're blank $1 billion in revenue to you. Give us a better deal for them all together. We'll divide it up among them. Okay. Well, that stinks if they're not involved. But suppose the advertisers say to the agency, look, we understand you can go to network A, platform B, with all your clients together and get a better deal collectively. We understand you can do that. We're not organized that way, so we're involved. And we all have a choice, yes or no. And full disclosure, and your fee is determined in advance and audited. Okay? You're not going to we're allowing you, making a number of 4% or something more than normal. Agreed? They
Yep.
agree. We want to audit it. They're involved. It's their business. Now, as far as dividing up, that's be fair. Make a system, demographic targeting, whatever it is, and each one gets a fair share of the buy. What's wrong with that? Instead, what you're hearing is it's terrible. The buys all stink. They're destroying ad campaigns. It's silly. It's silly. Think about it. Now, what's missing? The advertisers missing. Why aren't they doing that? Why are they sitting there at the ANA meetings, the 4A meeting? Why are they sitting there complaining? Why not get involved in media? Uh, Another example: the typical agency says to the client, "No, understands the client will not tolerate more than a certain kind of media mix. They want it their way. Why aren't they fighting? If they have any reason to fight, it's not worth it to them. Why? It takes more effort to fight. Right? They're being pounded to death by bean counters, saying you're getting your 2.5%, your 4.1%, whatever it is. You can't get more. You should get
Right.
more. So what do you expect to get? More of that? It's not right. Something is wrong. And in all of this is the money. That can't be the only criteria. You have to take, yeah, if the advertisers want them to do a better job, pay them to do a better job. Figure out what it's worth or what it might be worth and pay them.
Yeah. As a media guy, I totally agree. I mean,
So
and that was our fight.
the media guys are sitting there. They're not integrated. They never were. I happen to make a point of meeting all the creative guys, getting involved in how campaigns work. I did it out of interest. They said, "What are you doing? Why are you asking these questions?" Because it's all the same thing. It's all advertising. That's why. The media person is a media person. I buy network television. I buy streaming. I buy print. I buy radio. All separate. Why separate? It's more economical for the agency. That's why. It
Yeah.
costs less per $1 million. Well, if that's all their entire decisions based on cost and price and profit, I can't blame them. I really can't blame them. Now, how do you change that? It's a mystery.
Yeah.
For example, the answer is the clients have to change. Well, there are thousands of clients in different product categories, different rules. Who's going to organize them? Not P&G? No. Who will organize all the clients together? The sellers operate in unison. TV networks don't operate separately. They they work together. For example, when 30s were mentioned by one of our clients, Culver, as a way of getting a lower CPM, 1967, around there. The network said no, not half price for 30s. P&G said no, as a matter of fact. They were afraid Lieber might get an advantage. But the network said no. Uh, and then one caved in, ABC. Then they all
Yeah.
had it. Okay? But they worked together. When the access rule came in 1970 and 71, they lost half an hour of nighttime TV. Okay, they all got together after a while and said, "We're not making a profit like we used to anymore. We've got to fix that." They raised their CPMs 20% 3 years in a row all together. Nobody
Yeah.
came. Nobody backed off, and they got them. And they had the highest profits ever in 1977, 78, 79 by
Oh,
working together. I'm sure the others do the same thing. They're not,
I'm sure.
so why can't the advertiser do that too? Why should the media seller dominate everything? Certainly the measurements. They decide what the measurements are, not the advertiser. It's
Right.
to make them look good, they think. Why aren't the advertisers joining? Because they're not the same kind of people. They're different. Their cars, liquor, travel, food, soft drink, fast food. They're not the same persons. They don't even understand they should work together. That's one of the problems. So you can't look to them to fix it. Where can you look? I frankly haven't got an answer. What we are now is like Rome, before the Germans took over. We've been around. Time is faster now. In the old days, it took an empire hundreds of years to become an empire, and many hundreds to become not an empire. It's taking us only 50, 100 years.
Yeah.
Things are faster now. And we don't see that coming. We think it's like it was yesterday. It's not.
Yeah.
Media, for example, is changing radically, but mostly technology, not program content. News is news. Game shows are game shows. Movies are movies, very often bad ones. Sports is sports. It's not changing radically. What's changing is the way it gets out there and the price.
Yeah.
We are changing also though with social media.
But in a few minutes that we have remaining, I really want to touch on something that you created, which has the possibility of at least changing part of the equation, which is the attentiveness.
Hmm.
In a nutshell, like where are you heading with that? Because that's really interesting.
A long this is the book in my book, as a matter of fact. A long time ago, very long time ago, I said, "What are they viewing?" We're looking, thinking about Nielsen, and I got no answer. So I began digging in, and I found all kinds of studies, camera studies, people spying on their parents, other kinds of studies that said they aren't. Some are, and some aren't. It depends on the content. If the content is interesting, like a dramatic show, and within the show, the climax versus the beginning, uh, it varies. Next, I looked at commercials. I said, these recall studies, no commercial gets higher than 60%.
Yeah.
Not one. How can that be? Because one third aren't watching. That's why. They couldn't answer. When you put it all together, so I began to get involved in that in 1966. I said to Bill Simmons, I started the Simmons surveys. I said to Bill Simmons, take your diary survey, where people write down what they watch. Add three columns. Was I fully attentive, partially or mostly not there? And we did that with a sample of 6,000 diaries, 2 weeks each respondent. And we found tremendous variations in people's claims about being attentive to program content. Okay, and since then I've been doing that for commercials. T-Vision is doing a very interesting job. Others too, in using camcorders, using cameras
Yeah.
to in fact photograph the viewer. And what it shows is there's tremendous variability, not only program type, but demographically, subject matter, commercial clutter, day of the time of day, all kinds of variations. Uh, Individual ad campaigns, new versus old, seen often, not seen often, many variations. This is being ignored entirely. Okay? I say, why is that happening? The focus is entirely on media buying. Can I get higher attention by buying this channel versus that channel? Yeah, you can if you pay more for it. But what about the advertiser? Suppose you're the advertiser. Suppose you're P&G. And I said to you, if you bought this service, and it was a national service, a big full sample service, 100,000 homes, they could tell you for each commercial you make, forget about what show it's in, when interest peaked and didn't peak visually. They can tell you when, say you're casting your program, your commercial. Say they're proposing big star A or celebrity B at a certain price, and he's been doing TV shows, talk shows, and commercials for somebody else. They can tell you what how his attention varies by demographic. Is he a high interest person, low interest person? For you to
Right.
think about in casting him. What about your ad campaign? You're playing the same commercial over and over again. They can tell you, forget about the shows. Is it wearing out? And among whom? They can tell you all kinds of things about your ad campaign and the competition's ad campaign. How many persons that watch your ads watch their ads? What kind of person is that? Who watches both? You're not even getting this information because you think it's a media buying tool. No, it's a TV tool, all about TV, all about advertising.
Yeah.
It's not the
It's
full answer.
it's
It's
really
not,
a persuasion tool.
it's got all kinds of values that's not being appreciated. So I mentioned that.
Yeah.
But again, I'm
Okay.
talking to myself. They're not listening.
Hey, it happens to everybody. Okay. We media people, we always feel that way. I don't know. It's hard to meet a media person who says, I have been listened to. And hey, It happened to me at Food Corner Building, happened to me at McCann, happens to you. But we keep on trying. So Ed, I really want to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. It's been great having you in the program. It's been great seeing all of this knowledge. Hopefully, apply to advertising, and then I'll plug you. Your book is coming out soon.
Pretty soon, yeah.
I'll plug it in too. So let me know when it's in, and
I will.
we'll plug it.
You'll be hearing about it.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I look forward to keeping fighting with you in LinkedIn, and then
Okay.
hopefully agreeing more and more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. See you. Bye bye.